So, what the fuck happened here? 5 seconds ago, we were fighting this very sleep-deprived looking snowman in his own house, mind you, and now all of a sudden we're on our way out. Clearly some monkey wizardry has been employed to get through, but the details could easily escape viewers not in the known. Ladies and gentlemen, gamers from all around the world, I present to you Bleak Skip, the most infamous strategy in Donkey Kong Country 3 speedrunning. Bleak Skip was discovered from a task on nicovideo.jp in May 2016, and as its name suggests, it is a way to bypass the near entirety of the K3 boss fight. It is a trick exclusive to the Japanese version of the game, as that is the one version that allows you to pause the game during the fight after being technically dead. DKC 3 actually has a ton of differences between versions, and discussing Bleak Skip really only scratches that surface, but that will be a video for another day. The trick itself is fairly straightforward. Simply press start and pause your game as it fades to black after Bleak smashes your face. But what makes it particularly obnoxious is the fact that this is a frame-perfect technique, and for a Super Nintendo game like DKC 3, running at 60 frames per second, a single frame is 1/60th of a second. Frame-perfect tricks are therefore very precise, but can be circumvented with reliable visual cues, which, unfortunately, Bleak Skip doesn't really grant you, the only useful one being luck dependent and relies on Bleak being in the back row when you lose the fight. Therefore, the death jingle that plays when you do so is your best and most reliable guide when it comes to this skip. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's start from the beginning. First, you want to place yourself in the bottom left corner of the arena as soon as you enter it. This makes your position consistent in the event you do get the optimal RNG for the visual cue. It actually is about a second faster to aggro Bleak at the start of the fight because his animation resets when he gets hit, which results in him damaging you for a second time sooner than if you were to idle. The problem with this comes from the death jingle potentially desyncing, which essentially puts you at risk of losing your only reliable cue and turns the whole skip into a crapshoot. Employ this time save at your own risk. But regardless of the strat you decide to go for, the idea is to simply get hit. Do not dodge Bleak's attacks. After the second hit, the death jingle will start playing, and at that point you have a few options available to you. If timing the press isn't your strong suit, you can mash the start button and send your thoughts and prayers Bleak's way. But pausing in DKC 3 has a cooldown of 3 frames, meaning that there will be at least 3 frames between each start press. This method is, all things considered, very unreliable, and I personally would not recommend it if your plan is to really build consistency with the trick. If you do decide to go the timing route, the aforementioned visual cue can potentially come into play. After the second hit, one of Bleak's snowballs will end up in front of Kitty's belly, regardless of Bleak's horizontal position in the back row. You can then use the snowball's position to time your pause and skip the fight accordingly. And this strategy works just fine with Dixie as well, although the snowball doesn't stay visible once it's in front of her. If luck isn't in your favor for the second hit, then the audio cue will be the sole thing you can rely on to hit the trick. There's one particular note during the death jingle that is used as a guideline, as the game fades to black roughly around when that note plays out. From there, all that's left to do is pressing start on the correct frame. And it's actually very easy to differentiate a successful Bleak Skip from a failed one. There's this flashing light on Bleak's chest that stops flashing when you pause your game. If you nail the skip, the screen will fade to black at that point. Being too early potentially gives you a second chance, but keep in mind the 3-frame pause cooldown mentioned earlier. If you're only a frame or two early, per the game's mechanics, you won't even have a shot at a retry. And if you're too late on it, well, nothing will really happen, except maybe tears and salt. And unfortunately, there isn't really a way to increase the trick's consistency using tools such as metronomes, so make sure to practice it generously to develop your timing and make sure you can save as much time as you can. And speaking of saving time, since this is indeed a speedrun trick, let's talk savings. Fighting Bleak from start to finish with no skip involved can take between a minute 10 and a minute and 15 seconds. Fighting Bleak using the skip takes about 14 seconds, which results in roughly a whole minute saved. Pretty sick, right? Well, This is still a frame-perfect trick, and the top runners pretty much have to nail it on their first attempt in order to not lose their pace, as missing Bleak Skip puts you back on the overworld, and you then have to re-enter the boss fight to give it another attempt. Pulling Bleak Skip off successfully on the 4th try will roughly break even with the regular fight, which makes picking the trick up when you're a less experienced runner a bit less daunting. Still, it very much can be a deal breaker for runners who aren't looking for a top time. The hassle of getting Bleak Skip quickly can simply not be worth it, and there is always more time that can be saved throughout the speedrun with better movement. On that note, let me go dust off my start button. What's up, gamers? It's been a while. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Huge shoutouts to Laugh and Tampa for hooking me up with very relevant information regarding Bleak Skip that I used throughout this video. Shoutouts as well to Liquify and 2chan for respectively providing me with gameplay footage and this video's thumbnail. And I will see you gamers in the next one. Take care and keep on rolling deep.